Welcome to this week's video where we're going to talk about a major pain point for developers and investors and builders.
And that is the neighbors around the property. When you're building a place, a lot of people don't like construction around them. But fortunately for us, we had none of those problems here.
We're going to talk about some of the things that we did and how we avoided those issues and how all of our neighbors ended up loving us when we sold this $1.91 million house in North Hollywood, the most expensive house in all of North Hollywood. My name is Sam McCurchin.
I'm Eddie Taslakian.
And this is SCFSU. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe and notification bell.
And that like button.
See you in the comments down below. So being good with your neighbors, why do you want to do this? You want to make sure that they don't create problems on your job site because you're invading into their neighborhood, their territory, and you have to show them respect. And you want to be proactive with getting on their good side, so then you don't have to be reactive to them being upset with you and trying to get them on your good side. So let's talk about what the first thing we did was.
Blocked the streets with trucks, brought a bunch of problems to them.
So before we even did anything, once we closed escrow, we typed up a little letter, stapled our business card to it, or my business card, which has my cell phone number and everything, and said, hey, we're building in your neighborhood, we're at this address, we're gonna be doing remodeling and stuff. If there's any issues whatsoever, please call me. I really don't wanna be a disturbance to any of the neighbors. I don't have the exact letter, but as long as you word something along those lines, you should be fine. So we dropped that off to all the neighbors. I went at around 6 p.m. when all of them should have been home. I talked to a lot of the neighbors. They wanted to tell me about the neighborhood. They were blah, blah, blah. You get on everyone's good side. You know everybody's name. Everybody knows you by name now, and you're no longer a person behind a company that is building a house inside of a neighborhood. You are a human being. One of the main things that I let everybody know is hey, I cannot control every single person that arrives on this job site, but if someone is here that I'm paying and they do something that you guys don't like, let me know and I'll address it with them. And literally, we've had zero complaints.
I think just maybe a couple of like, hey, can you move this car? It's blocking my driveway by a little bit, or...
There was actually one time where somebody literally blocked a neighbor's driveway. I have no idea what was going on. The caveat of all this is they called me and I took care of it, and they didn't get upset, they didn't get angry, they didn't feel like they were hopeless and they couldn't do anything. They knew that they could call me and the problem would get fixed right away. So you
didn't call the police on us or something.
Or the city inspector, which we all know that we had a very great time with on this property. From there, let's go on to what happened when we had the house and any issues that we faced and how we dealt with it and how we maintained a positive relationship with all of our neighbors.
So one of the issues we had was during the sandblasting. If you guys watched the sandblasting video linked up here, we mentioned how we got the neighbor's car very dirty from the sandblasting. It just created a lot of dust and the neighbor was complaining about it. So I got on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, whatever, to find a mobile car wash person. And we just paid for somebody to come out with a mobile car wash his car, clean that up, and resolve.
I actually had him fully detailed inside and out. It was, what was it, 60, 80 bucks, something like that?
I don't remember.
But it's so nominal, and you know, they were so happy about it. They're like, oh, I thought you were just gonna wash the outside. I was like, no, I just did a full thing. It's fine, don't worry about it. And now they have no more issues with us. And this neighbor actually, as you guys can see during our Twilight Open, they came and they gave us a wonderful card basically thanking us.
That's so sweet. Oh.
Pro tip, besides being neighborly and good with all your neighbors, when you're gonna start developing a property, is to talk to your adjacent neighbors and say, hey, I just bought this house. I really wanna upgrade the fences and the walls around before we get moving in and doing stuff. Would you guys be willing to split it? This is something that I learned from another developer, because when you move along and they see you're spending all this money doing construction and there's a wall that's on the property line that needs to be repaired, changed, or fixed, they know that you're going to do it and they will not pitch in for it. Now, this is not across the board, but it's much more favorable if you ask them before you start demoing. And in Los Angeles, where permit times are like 6 to 8 months now, you have that much time to get your fences changed and split the cost with your neighbors, which is the fair thing to do.
So one of the neighbors that we were able to help out approached us and asked us, hey, when you're doing your driveway, can you also help do mine? Have your contractor bid out my job, so if the concrete trucks are coming, the workers are here, you can do 2 jobs at once and maybe we both save a little bit of money. We weren't worried about saving money because we had to pay that money anyway, but we're glad to have helped out where he could save some money on his new driveway.
Another benefit to being kind and courteous to your neighbors is when we had issues with a lot of trash or a lot of tree that we needed green bins for, all of our neighbors let us use their green bins, which was great, and it was very, very helpful for us.
Speaking of green bins and greenery, we had the big tree in our parkway. Now the parkway is city property, and this tree when we bought the house was half dead. As we started construction, it went from half dead to fully dead, and we wanted it removed.
There was also another tree on a Neighbours parkway that was completely dead, and it reminds you of that scene from Lion King when all the hyenas and monkeys are fighting.
So we called the city to have it removed, and they said this one's not dead enough, that one's too dead to remove, all these things. Months and months of work of calling them.
And then finally they marked it for removal. But did they remove it?
They did not remove it.
For a very long time.
For a long time, it stayed as marked for removal, which is just like this little white dot of spray paint on the tree. And it meant nothing to us. And we kept calling. And then Sam took it into his own hands.
And the reason I did that is because at one point somebody came out and said the tree was healthy, it wasn't leaning, and it wasn't dead. And he angled his photo in a way that made it look like it wasn't leaning, and that made us lose months of progress. So at that point, I decided to be a nuisance, which is what I do best. I got all of our neighbors involved. Everybody wanted this tree removed. Basically typed up a letter telling them what number to call, what to ask for, where to write down the reference number. And basically I walked around and I had like 30 of those, and I passed it to every single neighbor that I possibly could. Even if this tree didn't necessarily be in their line of sight, if they were one street over, whatever, I gave it to everybody. I was like, can you please call? Can you tell them this? Write down these numbers. I'll come pick up this paper from you. By end of day that day, and I did this around like the afternoon, I had 6 or 7 papers that were given back to me. A couple of people texted me photos of their paper. And next thing you know, the next morning, the city's here saying, we are removing your tree.
Again, this is why you gotta be good with your neighbors, know them on a first name basis, and be willing to talk to them. Everybody did want this tree gone, but nobody knew the action steps to take. So Sam walking around telling them, hey, this is what you need to do. They were willing to do it.
That maybe 1 hour of walking around saved us maybe $2,000 to $3,000, because we were gonna end up removing both of those trees most likely, because we wanted the street to look nice for the next potential buyers. It would definitely add value to the street, and it changed the street up a lot and opened it up a lot as well. So it was definitely worth getting that removed, even if we had to pay for it. But it worked out right for everybody involved. Being cool with your neighbors also gives added benefits to networking. So one of our neighbors ended up being in videography, photography. He had a friend visit town that wanted to see the house, and because we were cool with everyone, they ended up walking the property. When we were talking about it, we talked about they're in the editing world, and he said, oh, I know a guy that does editing for like YouTube stuff. And that's literally how we found our editor that is currently editing our videos. It's another benefit that we gained by being very nice and kind.
Neighborly.
Neighborly is probably the right word. Another added benefit that we reaped by being very neighborly is one of our neighbors actually gave us the lead, which you guys can see in this video over here, for an off-market property.
We were able to talk to somebody interested in selling their house. It unfortunately didn't pan out because we made an offer that they found the better offer for.
And that's perfectly fine, but in a world where we are spending a lot of money on advertising and outreach, this was a free lead essentially based on our relationship with the neighbors. And these relationships will outlast the construction process of that property, meaning 10 years, 2 years, 5 years, 12 years, 20 years down the line, they have our card, they'll give us a call, they've saved our phone numbers in their phone. If they have another property, someone willing to sell, we pretty much have first dibs on it, if they remember us.
Hopefully. Hopefully we left a good impression on them, enough to call us in the future.
That wraps it up for this week's video. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell. For all you new viewers, welcome to the channel. We hope you guys can find this informative and help you in your construction development, investment, whatever career.
Make sure you also like this video.
Oh, thumbs up, don't forget. See you guys next week.